The running of the Bitcoin bulls, Elon Musk, Jack Dorsey, and ARK Invest CEO Cathie Wood, the three of them will be featured speakers today at the Bitcoin event, The B Word. They're going to have a live discussion at 2 p.m. Eastern time on how the cryptocurrency is perceived by the mainstream world. Musk and Dorsey, they initially agreed to a debate in a Twitter exchange last month. Their meeting comes as Bitcoin fell below 30,000 yesterday for the first time in a month, although it is back above that mark today. You see right now it's just almost at 31,000. And this is since it hit an all-time high above 65,000 back in mid-April. Bitcoin has dropped by more than 50%, but it's still up 6% this year and more than 200% higher over the past 12 months. A lot of numbers there. We're going to break it all down. Let's talk more about this with Lawrence Lewitinn, managing editor for markets at the CoinDesk. Hey there, Lawrence.
Hey, how are you?
All right.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. Thanks for being here. So let's just kind of get down to it. We got three what we might want to call luminaries of the crypto and tech world, chatting a little bit about Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies later today. We know what happened back a couple months ago when Elon Musk was on SNL and he kind of dissed Dogecoin, the kind of price action that created. What kind of action could today's discussion, much different forum, have on Bitcoin potentially in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, right now the B word happens to be bear, and that's what's going on in the market. Look, we could see a pop here and there, depending on what's being said, but we have to step back a little bit and see that basically Bitcoin has been on a downward decline since mid-May. And it had its all-time high back in April. But May is an important point because that was when crypto trading firms had a tough time in China because of bans. They couldn't deal with financial institutions there. So basically you had capital that couldn't leave China using crypto. It was a lot harder for them to do it. It was a lot harder to get access to crypto. And then interest in Bitcoin just basically dropped off. You start to see this volume decline since then. Tether, which is the on-ramp for a lot, it's a stable coin that's pegged to the US dollar. It's an on-ramp for a lot of Asian investors, particularly in China. They buy it offshore potentially and invest it in Bitcoin. That stayed frozen at 62 billion since May. It's actually down a little bit since then. It started the year at 20-something billion. And it was in October, it was at 4 billion. So you're seeing this basically long-term decline in Bitcoin. So you could have all these influencers speaking today, and it might be good for a pop here and there. They might announce some more interesting things with, Cathie Wood and Jack Dorsey, talking, Cathie Wood investing in stuff that Jack Dorsey's doing. We've already had that announcement. So we don't really know what could happen. But it's not going to overcome this kind of bearishness.
All right. Well, obviously today, though, people are pretty bullish. We're seeing Bitcoin's up about 3.5%, some other cryptos up as well. What do you attribute that to today? I mean, obviously we have this event coming up at 2 p.m. that a lot of people are talking about. But in your mind, that's not really a catalyst.
No, it's buying. It might be just buying because the prices were below 30 and you have technical buying. You might have some interest coming in. People saying, oh, maybe there'll be an announcement. Maybe maybe Elon Musk might say, might tweet that he's going to be buying Bitcoin once he gets on the moon. Who knows what it's going to be? But overall, it's not going to overcome this lack of retail buying coming out of Asia that was there months ago. It's a real problem that Bitcoin has right now. And I don't know if any influencer can overcome that. Now they have short-term influence, right? You can have these people coming in and tweeting and doing all sorts of things. And that might be good for a pop 2,000 here and there, but it's not going to overcome this long-term problem.
Yeah. Speaking of that long-term problem, Bitcoin down more than 50% from its all-time high. You mentioned China kind of kicking out some of those miners. Remember when a lot of people thought of Bitcoin as an inflation hedge? Whatever happened to that? And why hasn't why have we seen the moves we've seen if that's really what it is?
When you step back, you got to think about it as maybe potentially people were grafting all sorts of ideas onto Bitcoin. Yes, there is a limited supply of Bitcoin. And that, like gold, people look at it and say, okay, there are only so many 21 million Bitcoin that are ever going to be minted out there. And here we have, something like trillions of dollars coming into the economy, buying all sorts of crazy things, doing all sorts of risk on things. So why not buy some Bitcoin? the thing is, we might have been looking at Bitcoin after the fact. In other words, we're seeing this rise in Bitcoin prices and attributing it to something like fiscal and monetary easing, when in fact it might have just been other things happening in Asia, such as capital flight, such as just speculation. So that narrative might have been added by the institutions as a justification for why they were putting it on their portfolio, but it might not be the real reason for that spike in prices months ago.
You know, speaking of Bitcoin on a portfolio or companies holding Bitcoin, there was a lot of excitement when companies like MicroStrategies decided they were going to buy some Bitcoin. But we've seen other companies like the payment companies, Visa and MasterCard, say they have no plans, at least in the near term, to hold crypto on their balance sheets. Is there a company, is there an institution that can just really put that stamp on crypto and have it rally again if they either put it on their balance sheet or announce that they plan to buy it?
I mean, sure, there could be, you know, the Apples or Facebooks of the world. If they started buying it, maybe that might change things. But for it, you know, Tesla put $1 billion into it, and look at that. The price went from 60,000 to 30,000. I mean, it hasn't helped. And when you have a company with such retail enthusiasm as Tesla, MicroStrategy went out into the debt market and they borrowed a lot of money to buy Bitcoin and put it on their balance sheet. And guess what? The price went down. They're getting very close to their break-even price for Bitcoin, which I believe was in the 20s. So this isn't necessarily going to do it. Having Bitcoin on a balance sheet isn't going to help necessarily the price of Bitcoin, at least on the short term, unless it's a major overhaul of how companies do their business, and everybody and all these S&P 500 large cap, the largest of the large caps in the S&P 500 say, yeah, let's put it on our balance sheet. But aside from that, it's just not there.
All right, well, big crypto chat coming up at 2 p.m. Eastern. We're all going to be keeping our eyes on it. Lawrence Lewitinn, thanks for